welcome everybody in this first technical session of the first day of Atal FDP on data science, that is organized by Makhanlal Chaturvedi National University of Journalism and Communication, Bhopal. So as it has been already told you from the calendar, that this session is all about what, when, how, and where about data science. And to give you a brief overview, what you are going to discuss in all the coming 7 days, and what will be the idea you have to go through in all the coming 7 days. So this is a very hot topic nowadays, like talking about data science. Everywhere we are talking about this. So the outline and agenda of my talk is going to be, we'll be starting with how data, and then how it emerged into big data, and then managing with the big data and the challenges that we faced. And then how come the data science came into picture when we were already working with data science and big data, when we were working with big data and its technologies, and a lot of things were going on, how data science came into picture. Definition, introduction we'll be discussing. And then, like, when we say that we are specifically working into data science, so we already work into AI, we are already into machine learning, and then we talk about explicitly about data science. So what is the difference between all these technologies, and like how it actually, when we work in data science, how actually the things are being done, what is the level in which we have to move into to work in the area of data science. Some specifically, because data science is all about, it's taking some of the very, very important concepts from the machine learning technique as well. So we will be just touching the machine learning techniques, and after that, where some of the real life examples to give you a glimpse of how and where right now the things are going on in the market, and where people are applying data science. So to start with, like, it's just about data all around. Like, it's just started with the story of Web 2.0, when the social media came into picture, when social network came into picture, and lots of data was being generated and warehoused. Like, it was about web data, e-commerce, financial transactions, bank credit transactions, online editing, trading, and purchasing, and everything. We are right now, like, we are into social media, social networks. Everything we are managing with the tip of our finger on our mobile devices. Everything we are taking with ourselves in our pocket, and we can connect any moment of time to anything, and we can manage anything. So that's with the generation, with the coming of Internet of Things, like IoT into picture. Everything is now happening on the web with the tip of our finger. So can you imagine, we are all around in the data sea. The sea of the data is all around us. So it's just like to give you a glimpse of how much I'm talking about the data we are in, because we cannot feel it physically around it. If I'm saying that I'm in a sea of data, if we cannot feel it physically, but actually how this statement relates to the actual facts. It is being given by 2000. I'm picking up a statement of 2018 from Domo's Data Never Sleeps 5.0 report, because data never sleeps, even though we need rest, but data is still generated every minute of the day. So it's a very big report of 2018, but I have just picked up a very little portion, just 1% portion of that report. And just to give you a glimpse, like, if I talk about Snapchat users, it was a report of 2018. Snapchat users, like, they every minute, Snapchat users, total number of photos that are being shared are 5,27,760 photos are shared on Snapchat app every minute. More than 120 professionals join LinkedIn every minute. Users watch 41,46,600 YouTube videos every minute. And it's a data of 2018, and right now we are in 2020, and you can just see the growth that is it must have taken right now. The figure must have exponentially increased in 2020. And if we talk about some communication data, like if we are doing some text messages, emails, and other sort of thing, so there is also a report talks about that, like 16 million text messages are being sent. Yeah. 16 million text messages are being sent every minute. 156 million emails are sent worldwide. It is expected that there will be 2.9 billion email users by 2019. Since it's a report of 2018, they were predicting the exponential, the growth of the number of email users by 2019. And you can imagine the growth it would have taken, because we are currently in 2020 talking about that report of 2018. So it's like data on the web everywhere. So it's like just mind boggling, isn't it? The amount of data that we produce every day is truly mind boggling. There are 2.5 quintillion bytes of data created each day at our current pace, but that pace is only accelerating with the growth of Internet of Things. So it's just the new technology, and we are already into Internet of Things. We are using it, we are doing it, and you can just imagine how much growth the data generation must have taken place. So it's just not big data. We just don't think, oh my God, it's so much of data, how we are going to manage it. It's like we are like so much engrossed into it, there's nothing we can do about it. But no, don't treat it like a bane, it's a boon. If it's not silent. One thing that we need to understand, that big data in a sea that we are in, it's not silent. It is being generated every minute, every second. We are sleeping, but data is not sleeping. But it wants to tell us something. It communicates very well to us only if we try and learn to listen to it. It can give us so many clues for future as well. So, wow, it's going to be so good if we really try to understand what's going on. So we need to learn to some of the technology, some of the understanding capabilities to understand our own data, our own generation, our own child. So we must try to understand and learn to listen to it so that it becomes beneficial for us. But okay, fine, we agree that okay, it's just going to be helpful to us in so many ways. So first of all, before managing and before trying to listen to it, we need to understand its big data. What are, before understanding, before learning to dig out information out of it, we must know the challenges before us while we handle, while we start listening and managing our big data. So because of the data variety, the three main things, that the challenges that come before us when we talk about big data is like the variety of the data that is being generated, the velocity with which it is generated, and the volume with which it is generated. So variety, if I talk about, there are a lot of types of data which are being generated. So we should have technology to understand, like if it is a video data, web data, if it is a tabular data, if it's a report data, if it's a marketing data, SMS data, social media data, audio data. So different type of data, XML data. So lot of data structures are there, and we have to manage all these data structures. Other important problem that is lying before us, that laid before us, not now because we are already managing it, it's a previous thing. So data velocity was the thing. So because your velocity is a fraction of you blink your eye and the data changes, you blink another time and the data changes, because it's such a fast changing world, it's a dynamic world. The velocity with which the data changes is so fast that once you store a data and start managing it, the next blink of a time, it changes. So you should have some dynamic ways of changing the data, handling the dynamicity of the data, and handling the velocity with which it is coming. It can be a static data, we can call it as a batch data, or it can be a real-time data. So we need some technologies, some good technologies to handle some such kind of a data. And another thing is the volume of the data that is being generated. Like earlier we were talking about, when I was studying in my master's, we were talking about KB, MB, and GB was the big thing that we talk about. Okay, the memory is going to be 10 GB. It's something very big for us. So now it's going to be terabyte, petabyte, and then potentials of the data is being generated. So it's all the challenges which lie before us when we try to delve into the sea of big data, our own child, our own baby of big data. It's really, we see that, okay, the baby, to handle this baby is not that simple. We need to really be hard. We need to really be strong and understand the techniques to handle our baby. So like what to do with these data? Earlier, like we started with data warehousing, OLAP, indexing, searching, querying, like keyword search, pattern matching. These were the standard techniques we used to apply in our databases. And then it came with the history of data mining, with the knowledge discovery in databases. This paper is there, very standard paper is there. You can go with when the data mining came into picture. They describe that you have a lot of variety of data, and data mining is something dealing with the knowledge discovery in our data, in our child, understanding what the patterns it is actually holding, the pattern matching, the pattern discovery, and then finding out the patterns is all about data mining. So it always uses statistical modeling. So this is the area of data mining which is only dealing with finding out interesting pattern in our data that we are trying to understand. And then came the big data technology also into picture, like Hadoop and all that stuff. So these were something which were going on parallelly when we tried to manage our big data baby, and because of the lot of the complexity that it was having due to volume, due to velocity, due to the data structures that it may have, we had to work with so many technologies. But then came the data science. So we just moved into data science, and it was like 2011 it just came. It was like a very, 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 the 10 years back thing when it just started into picture, that, okay, we don't actually only can't rely on finding interesting patterns. We need some data scientists who can work beyond finding interesting patterns. We can just not only work on finding interesting patterns, but we can just help us to futuristic about. They can help us to decide what we should do for the future based on this data. Can our data be futuristic? So that was the main idea of moving ahead from data mining to data science. So in the just like it's Hal Vian from Google chief economist in 2011 said that is going to be the top job in the next 10 years will be data scientist. And still, like we are in 2020s. So you can very well imagine that data scientist is, yes, it's this statement became true in 2020, that yes, it's data scientist is the top job right now in the market. So US, and it was also said in 2018, like US will need nearly 140,000 to 190,000 predictive analysts and 1.5 million managers or analysts by 2018. So that was by McKinsey Global Institute by 2018. They also said in 2011, and you can imagine that really we are working towards it. We are into that era in which data scientists they have just captured the market, and the only job we see is like if you are a data scientist, you will definitely get a job. If you are a machine learning expert, you will definitely get a job. If you are a predictive analyst, you will definitely get a job. So people are doing courses about it. Universities are running special courses, online courses in this COVID era, because it is just in. It is just in. We are in 2020. So we must accept this, that learning data science is the thing that we must pick up right now and immediately to become aligned to our computer science field. So, and now so you can just see data science jobs flooded everywhere. So that's the reality we are in. So it's and you can see that I'm talking about, if I'm talking about only finding out the interesting patterns from the data, it's data mining. But if I want something for my predictions, for my recommendations, for my future, for the business to decide in a very intelligent manner for the future, so that the business flourishes, so that the right decisions can be taken at the right moment of time. So that is all about data science. It's all about when you talk about recommendations, predictions going on, it's all about data science. Data scientist is the one who is behind this, who is behind doing all these predictions and recommendations for any company. So what is data science? We are moving ahead and we just want to know, okay, fine, data scientist is going to be the person who will, flourish the market, who will flood in the market, who are the only people who will be required. So what is actually data science is all about? Can I become a data scientist if I'm not a computer scientist? Can I do data science? Yes, it's a multidisciplinary area that manages manipulates, extracts, and interprets. Now, this interpret term is very important because interpreting and then using it for decision making is something very, very important to data science. It's just not only managing, it's just not only manipulating, it's just not only extracting, but interpreting and using that interpretation for decision making is what is data science all about. So it's about predictions. So data science principles, but right now, because I started with big data, I moved on to data science, but mark my words that whatever you are going to learn for data science in the coming week in various lectures, from various resource persons, data science principles can be applied to big as well as small or as well as medium data sets. So it's not only about, oh, you are going to learn data science only if you are working with big data. No, not at all. The data can be medium level, data can be small, and your intelligence of data science can help you decide for a small level company, for a middle level company, for a big level company. So data science is all about knowing about some computer science, IT fundamentals. It's all about mathematics, statistics, some domain and business knowledge you require. And then you should be aware about software development, traditional research techniques, machine learning, definitely. Without machine learning, you cannot go ahead with data science. And then it just mixes up everything, and that becomes the science of the data that you should be learning in the coming week. So you should be learning about how picking up the data, applying some maths on that, applying some stats on that, applying some domain knowledge on that, putting some model of machine learning on that, developing some model on that, and then finding out some prediction and using that prediction to decide, giving it to management level, that decision making, and decision making can be done at the management level. So actually, this is all about data science. So data science is a multidisciplinary field. You should be aware about the business, because, specifically if you talk about market, I'm not talking about specifically about education field, or, we are training our students to be in the IT field, in the IT market, and to handle business, to handle the data which is being generated by the business people. So by the business people. So it's going to be like the data scientist has to be good at problem solving. He should be good at, he should be inquisitive to find out what is required by the party, business analysis, business strategy, domain knowledge, communications, and then just he has to be good at applying which machine learning model to be applied, how to clean my data, only which features I should pick up to apply my machine learning algorithm, and do pattern recognition or not, whether I should apply statistics or not, how should I help, which software should I use to visualize my results and show it to the my customers, and to decide on the fact. So there's a lot of technologies which go along when you talk about data science. So it's just idea that we need to work on. So then you say that, okay, data scientist. So there are two terms that you will always listen, and the students will ask you, okay, what is data analyst? Data analyst was also doing, putting maths, putting statistics, putting some domain knowledge and programming into it. And that data analyst was also giving me some of the insights of my data. Okay, this is good and this is bad. This is of very well acceptable product in the market. This is not a very good acceptable product as per my statistics. So when you get a data, you apply statistics and you get so many of good results out of it. Then what is the need of data scientist? Yes, data scientist is doing what data analyst is doing, but he is also applying machine learning onto it. And machine learning is all about making models and analyzing, obviously analyzing the data, but then moving ahead, developing a model for future predictions as well. So training the machine for getting the predictions. So if I say about two simple examples of like who is doing what, if I say like, okay, 2019 elections, BJP won, then I'm not, it's just a party, it's just a data that I'm picking. So 2019 election, who won? This particular party won. Who is going to analyze the data collected before 2019 election, and what happened, what went wrong, what went good, in which areas it was done good, which area it was not done good, where are the improvement areas, what should we do to when what should we do actually in these areas. So this is all done by the data analyst, the simple data analysis. But if the question is, in 2024 elections, again, election will be held, who will win? The prediction, it is being done, it is to be done. This is the job of data scientist, not the data analyst. So we must be clear about that, whether a particular person is a data, this job, whom should we allocate? Being a leader, being a teacher, whom should we allocate? If this is the case that you have to pick up the data and just analyze it, give it to data analyst. But if this is the job that you have to predict for the future, that what will happen in 2024, okay, you have to call the data scientist. Data analysts have no knowledge of giving us any of the predictions. So this is the data. So data scientist is the top job of 21st century. They extract stories, extract knowledge. They are not reporters. If I talk about data analysts, they act as reporters, reporting what is right and what is wrong, but they are not reporters. They are futuristic. They are telling us what's going on in our big data and the compelling patterns, and then they advise the senior executives on making decisions for the implications of your product. So that's the data scientist is all about. So big and small decisions in every company now are being transferred to data scientists. So they are the future predictors of the company. Like if you are launching a business, applications are the main applications of data science. So launching a new product, go to data scientist, like how he will tell you how much to invest, how much to invest in online media, newspaper, how much to put in the India outside, and the whole scenario will be cleared by the data scientist to you, and then you can decide on go ahead with the launching of the product and or not to go ahead with the launching of the product. Or you can talk about like hiring, how much next year we should go about, kitne employees we have to hire, what should be the experience, in which areas we should put our new employees, new expertise, so that the total scenario of the company is being exaggerated. So like this is all about what is data science. The first question, what is data science? I hope the things are clear that what is data science. So but when you say there are a lot of technologies which are right now flourishing in the market, so when we say that we are actually in the we are say that actually we are actually in the field of data science. So just to give it a clear glimpse, because we are all already into teaching of computer science, we somewhere or the other we know we must have taught AI or understand AI. So it's just like a superset of everything. So machine learning is also one of the AI technique. You talk about DL. DL is deep learning. Again, deep learning is a very, very specialized field, subset of machine learning. Very, very specialized subset of machine learning. So we talk about these things right now. Like what is AI? Okay, AI enables, like example of AI is where do you apply AI? There is like a lot of like finding you have a lot of routes. So these are some of the examples when you start understanding AI, like finding shortest path, applying depth first search, applying breadth first search, hill climbing, all that stuff, or playing games, chess, checkerboard problems. So we have understood about like, the broad area of AI. What does it cover? So it just enables machine to think, or like example, self-driving car. But when we talk about specifically the subset machine learning of AI, is just specifically talks about applying statistical tools to explore and analyze the data for prediction. So prediction is very important thing in machine learning, which is actually a specialized thing about AI. So when you talk about predictions, developing models, it is machine learning specifically you are doing. So you will be a AI expert working in machine learning, then you say this thing. But when I talk about deep learning, so machine learning is also like, it's a lot of algorithms are there in machine learning. Then we move ahead and we talk about, okay, my research work is in deep learning. So deep learning is again in, because we are dealing with a lot of noisy data, lot of, the complex data for which we have to develop model. For handling such kind of a data, deep learning comes into picture, which is nothing but neural network extension. That is multiple neural networks being placed again and again. And it's a layer of neural networks which help you to combat with very, very complex real world problem. So if your problem area is very, very complex and you are dealing with the real world data, multi neural network architecture can take you to some point and help you to do good research work if you are working in the deep learning area of machine learning. So just a minute. So, but then where does the data science come? So now we must have heard about data mining also. So it's like data mining is just extracting pattern from the data. Data mining may use AI technology, may use ML technology, some of the other facts. So data mining is much more than, only, so it may use some AI, some ML, some other facts as well. But up now I need to place where is data science? Where lies the data science? So data science is all the, this is a red circle of DS that I'm showing, shows the data science. So data science uses AI techniques. It's just multidisciplinary. It uses ML techniques. It may use DL. It may use data mining, and over and above, it is probability, linear algebra, presentation skills, data representation, data cleaning. Everything is collectively going on in data science apart from these 4 or 5 technologies. So you do need to be ahead of everything if you want to be a data scientist. So let's move ahead, like where we have just discussed where. So this is I just my motive for today is to give you a complete glimpse of what you will be doing in the coming week. So that is my motive, and that was what I was told by the organizers, to give you a complete glimpse of the picture, just a summary of the tip of the iceberg. So this is, I'm going to discuss very logically how the things going on, how a data scientist work in an organization of a medium level. If I talk about medium level, so data science has a lot of things to do. He just starts from collecting data to analyzing and deploying data. So if a student comes to you and says, okay, I have got a data science job, so you can just imagine what all things he is expected to do in that organization where he is offered a data science job. So he should be like a good inquisitiveness. The earlier I discussed, he should directly contact the user of the application and ask why do you need this, why do you need that. After acquiring all the data, after acquiring all the data, he should acquire the data from the web servers, logs, databases. He should be online repository of that organization and collect the data. The data is like weird data. When we collect directly from the web, it just needs cleaning. It just contains so much of noise, so much of extra data that we don't actually need for doing actual data analysis, actual data thing. So we must first clean up the mess that we collect in this step. So we just need to do data cleaning, inconsistencies, extra parameters, extra features, the noise in the data. We should be aware of the technologies to remove that thing, transformation of the data. Suppose the data is in some another parameter, you need some another values. So you need to transform your data in a way on which your data modeling or machine learning can be applied. So after data preparation, data cleaning, you go ahead with exploratory data analysis. I've seen in your syllabus, in your 1 week schedule, exploratory data analysis is a part of your, maybe today only. So it will be discussed like how it defines and refines the selection of features. Like there you have collected the data. Agar aapne dekha ho, so you just go through with any of the log files. It just contains hundreds of columns. So 100 of columns you are not interested in. You are only interested in very important columns or very important attributes. So that can be done by selection of features, or the model that will help you to finally develop the model. So this is a very important part of exploratory data analysis, in which out of 100 columns, you will select either 10 or 20 columns which are of interest to you. After that, selecting the data, exploratory data analysis, you just move ahead with the data modeling, in which you just apply a good machine learning technique. You try different techniques, okay, because you have to try and test the things. You cannot directly go and just apply, okay, I'm going to apply Naive Bayes algorithm, or I'm going to apply neural network, or I'll be doing classification. No, you cannot do like this. You have to apply various methods, and you have to, based on the data and based on what you want to predict, you have to decide on a particular machine learning modeling techniques, and then you have to test it. You have to test it again and again, so that best algorithm you can just pick up for your data, which can predict efficiently without any error. So this is data modeling that you have to do. After you model the data, you just present the outputs by visualization and communicate and deploys it. And you test it and deploy it. And that's it. You deploy and you give it to the management, you or the customer, so that he can decide on that. So the customer is not going to see this. Customer is a naive person. He requires visualization of your decision. He requires better way of representation in the form of graphs, in the form of charts, what you want to convey. So you should be a better visualization technique, so that after seeing the results, user can decide, the management can decide what is good and what is not good. So he is just giving, the consumer is giving you the raw data. And from that raw data, you are completely doing everything to give him charts, graphs, etc. on the data, and to help him decide on the fact that what is right and what is not right for the, and rest up. You're not taking decision, you're just suggesting the decisions. So machine learning, and we just, because we see that machine learning is a very, very important part of data science. So I'll be just moving ahead with giving you some of the glimpses of machine learning and how it just go ahead with some of the major algorithm that you come ahead with machine learning. Agar aapke paas data hai, to if you have data, and then you can just apply some of the machine learning techniques. So you'll be learning good machine learning techniques in the coming week, but just a brief discussion about the machine learning techniques. So it just automatically do. This is the learning system model of any of the machine learning technique. You give some input data, and then the system tries to understand that data. When it is understanding the data, that means you are training your system to see that data. You're showing your data to your system, and you're training your system to develop a model. And that model, that algorithm, will be then used for the prediction. Okay? So this is all about giving some input data, asking your machine to see that data and train what is the pattern of this data, and then the pattern, based on that patterns, finding out some rule that prevails in that data. The rule that we want to find out, what is the rule of this data that is occurring in this data, and that rule has to be stored, and that rule will be used for the future prediction. So I'll just come for this, yeah. So because this is a learning system model for any of the machine training and testing is going on, because I've divided the thing into training and testing. Suppose you have 100 samples of data. Out of that, you will basically use 80 samples of data for training, and rest of the 20 rows you will keep it for testing purpose, so that the rule that you have generated, whether it fits the rest of the 20 rows or not. So when you picks up a data, it's a universal data set. It may contain hundreds of rows or thousands of rows. And out of that, some of the data you pick up for training, and rest of the data you pick up for testing. So training data, you use training data to train your system. And once the system is trained, you then again fill the rest of the data you kept for testing to test your system, unobserved patterns. So there are some of the technical terms which will come when you learn about these machine learning techniques in the coming weeks. And performance, like obviously, because you're training your system, zaruri nahi hai ki wo bahut अच्छे से train ho jaye, and then just need to test ki okay, how the training is done. Because once you train your students, you impart all your knowledge to your students, and students says, okay, we are ready and we are trained. But then you need to test how much they are trained for. कितना जानते हैं वो, आपको testing करनी पड़ती है. So like किस तरीके की डिपेंड करता है कि आपने किस तरीके से बच्चे को ट्रेन किया है. इट ऑल्सो डिपेंड्स अपॉन द ट्रेनिंग मेथोडोलॉजी. सो वी जस्ट आर, बिकॉज अगेन योर न्यू एजुकेशन पॉलिसी सेज कि ट्रेनिंग को better, teaching pedagogies has to be improved to improve the performance of the students. So this is, we can relate to this thing because we are teachers. So the same thing, we need to improve the training pedagogy of our machine to improve its testing results. So kis tarike se the results, the performance of your machine will again depends upon how much training, how better training you have provided, and what was the background knowledge, kis tarike se, which learning algorithm you use. So all these factors which impact a normal learning behavior of any student, normal outcome of any student, that is the same factors which is making an impact for the behavior of our machine as well. Because if we treat our machine as a baby, okay, we are teaching our machine to be perfect in something, we should be a good trainer first of all. So a good trainer obviously will generate good students, and good students will give good results on testing, be it online testing, real-time testings, and be it any kind of testing. So this is the main thing that you have to, because testing is a very, very important part of your system. So types of, मैं बहुत जल्दी से थोड़ा सा जल्दी से आपको एक glimpse दिखा देती हूँ कि किस तरीके से machine learning divided है the different categories में. Machine learning can be supervised, unsupervised, or it can be semi-supervised. So अगर आप machine learning की बात करेंगे तो supervised, I think I have time. How much time do you have? Do I have, sir? Dr. Dwivedi, and I have some time. It's 2 o'clock till, right?
Yeah. Yes. Till 2 you can take.
Yeah. So another, like, I'll be just picking up the things, because a glimpse is always a good, because आपको पता रहेगा कि आपने आगे वाले हफ्तों में कौन सी चीजें आपको देखनी है. So if I talk about I want to go with supervised, how will I decide I want to apply my supervised learning or unsupervised learning, or I want to go with my semi-supervised learning, depending upon the data that is coming to you. If the data is labeled, you will go ahead with the supervised type of learning. If the data is unlabeled, you have no choice and only to pick up unsupervised learning. And if some of the data is labeled and some of the data is unlabeled, then there is no choice. You have to go with semi-supervised way of learning, or you can just, they can be used in some theories. You will find they're different, semi-supervised and reinforcement. In some of the books, you will find that they are one and the same thing. So it depends upon, like, author to author, how they are treating it. So, but the main technologies is, what is a label data? How do I find that this is going to be a label data or not? And only when I'm told that my data is labeled, I will, go ahead with supervised or unsupervised learning. So, and these are some of the techniques of label data, linear regression. These are the algorithms names that I have put. I'm not going to discuss them in detail, because you have different sessions for these kind of algorithms. For unlabeled data, you can go with clustering, k-means, hierarchical, dbScan, you must have heard about. And then for some unlabeled data, it's reinforcement. So just फटाफट से हम देखते हैं सुपरवाइज लर्निंग में क्या हो रहा है. सो सुपरवाइज लर्निंग में सपोज एक सिंपल हम अगर डेटा उठाते हैं, यू हैव 2 columns in your Excel file, one is X and one is Y, and if I ask you to relate how X is related to Y, how Y is related to, is there any relationship or a pattern that you can watch in this? So this is, if you agree with me, this is something factorial going on. 1 factorial, 2 factorial, 3 factorial. It's a relationship of factorial, because my mind is basically trained to see such kind of data, and I know the relationship of such kind of a pattern, that this is a factorial. Oh my God, I just find out the relationship. Oh, my mind has worked, my machine has learned. So this thing, I want my machine to analyze. If it tries to see the data, can it find a relationship between 2 columns, X and Y? So see, the Y is the class. If a given X, I'm asked to predict Y. If I'm given Y 5 and I know the relationship between X and Y is factorial, I can immediately give what is the value of Y. If I'm asked, okay, my X is going to be 15, can you tell me why? Yes, now this is the prediction that machine is going to do. Yes, because machine was trained by showing this data, the relationship in this data is of factorial. Now give me any value of X, I will predict the value of Y. So that is machine learning of a labeled data. This Y, if it is given, it is called as a labeled data. The data of the prediction variable is already given while training. And this can be nominal. You can be asked to predict the numerical values of y, or y column can be the characters or the nominal or the categorical. In that case, you will say it's a classification. It's not, when it's a nominal, it's a numerical value you are predicting based on x, it is called as a linear regression. And when you are predicting a categorical value based on some data, it is called as a classification. Again, you must have heard about binary classification, multiple classification, multi-class classification. If the values that you are predicting are only two, either the value can be fail or a pass, or a fail or a pass, or a fail or a pass, then it is a binary classification. But then if you are asked, suppose depending upon the temperature of the day, you are asked whether it will be a rainy day, sunny day, cloudy day, then there are multiple predictions that you have to do, but then again limited. It's called as a multi-class classification, and you can call it by other name as a logistic regression. So you will be doing all these things. And when we talk about unsupervised learning, it's just like supervised. They are linear regression, logistic, classification, naive Bayes. You will be learning SVM. Neural networks also fall into supervised. And then we talk about algorithms of unsupervised learning. Unsupervised learning, only this X column is given. This Y column is absent from your data. When the class or the label column is absent from your data, only the data attributes are given with no classification attribute. It comes in the field of unsupervised learning. And in that unsupervised learning, the only way is to relate the data points with some the nearest neighbor functionality, or the probability distribution estimations, do some clustering on that, find the nearest things based on some of the functions which are available for clustering. So a lot of that is the application of clustering. And again, mind this thing, when we are working on web data, most of the data is not the labeled. Generally, we don't get labeled data. We need to either create our own labeled data sets, or we have to work with clustering applications. Unsupervised learning is the only way out. So you can see a lot of research work going in still in clustering and by clustering, and working people in genetic databases, clustering genetic data. So because why they don't apply linear regression, logistic regression on the genetic data? Because it is an unlabeled data set. Only clustering can be applied based on the nearest neighbor algorithms, like that. So we can just see algorithms, like if we see supervised learning, you have different classes, and easily you can bifurcate them. In our unsupervised learning, all the data seems to be same, because there are no classes which are not given to you, and you just have to use your wit or some functionality of similarity functions to divide the points into different subsets or different clusters. And when we talk about semi-supervised learning, in that case, you have to mix both the techniques. You have to do some clustering, you have to do some slowly and steadily, some of the labeled data, some is unlabeled, and you have to mix both the things and do it. So this is machine learning, how you move ahead with that. You have some data with you, and you have some labels with you. You extract some features and apply machine learning algorithm and develop a model, and then do the prediction. Something new comes to you, you predict the new label for that. And this is unsupervised. You don't have the difference between this is, in the supervised learning, you have data plus labels, but in the unsupervised learning, you have only data with no label. So you have to work only with the data and apply some machine learning algorithm of clustering and model like likelihood, find out better representation, and you have to decide. So some of the real world applications, like you must have come through, like document classification, whether it's a email spam filtering, classifying flowers, handwriting recognition, face detection and recognition. That is the only thing. So मैंने आपको पहले ही बता दिया है, regression आप तब कहते हैं जब आपको जो the class variable is the column that you want to predict is numerical in nature. So like, for example, you don't want to predict the fail or a pass. If you want to predict fail or a pass, it goes into classification. But if you want to predict the stock market price for tomorrow, it's a numerical value that you want to predict. So So that kind of a problem comes into regression. You want to predict the age of a viewer given a video, that he is watching a video on the YouTube. Can you predict a viewer? So that's like there. So unsupervised learning always talk about the clustering applications, and if the example is gene clustering that I have already told you. So difference in supervised learning and unsupervised learning, it's more technical about it. I don't want to go much into it, but the मोटे मोटे शब्दों में बस यही है कि वहां पर आपको सिर्फ डेटा दिया जाता है अनसुपरवाइज्ड में, और सुपरवाइज्ड में आपको डेटा के साथ लेबल दिए जाते हैं, and then you can go ahead with your regression, your classification, so on and so forth. So the few things that are left with deep learning, machine learning का एक बहुत ही specialized सब field है deep learning. न्यूरल नेटवर्क का भी आपका एक सेशन प्लान है, मैंने देखा है. एंड देन इन दैट केस आपकी जब प्रॉब्लम जब डेटा बहुत ज्यादा नॉइजी है और कॉम्प्लेक्स प्रॉब्लम है, जहां पर आपको जो मॉडल जनरेट करना है मशीन लर्निंग की तरफ से वो बहुत ही वेग है, एंड यू कैन नॉट डायरेक्टली अप्लाई लीनियर रिग्रेशन, लॉजिस्टिक रिग्रेशन ऑन योर डेटा, then you go ahead with the neural network. It's a simple neural network which basically is imitation of how we work in our mind. Why do we call it as a neural network? Because it has the same structure as that of a human neuron. That human neuron has receptors from where input is coming. It is just picking up the data, collecting the data, and then moving it forward to the next decision making. So the same idea is there in the artificial neural networks. There are some input parameters. On that input parameters, you apply some functions like summation, sigmoidal function, and based on the output of those functions, you decide on something. This is a simple neural network. And this is, you just can have multiple layers. These are the weights which you apply on here and just manage the data. In detail, in depth, it will be discussed later on. So what about deep? Why we call it a neural network as a deep neural network? When these number of layers, the depth of these layers, you can just link this as a graph. This is a graph. So when the depth of this graph will increase, it will be converted into deep neural network. So you can say the layering, the first layer, the second layer, the third layer of nodes, the first, the last, and these are so many layers of nodes. It's not only the one single middle layer. So it's a very deep graph, very deep neural network. So now we call it as a deep neural network. And deep neural network basically are used to handle with very complex real world problems in which a lot of noisy data is there. So a deep learning neural network can be categorized into simple artificial neural network when you are dealing with only numeric data. When you deal with image data, image classification, and you want to work in neural networks, it calls as CNN, that is convolution neural network. And then recurrence neural network when the data is of type time series. So आप पहले data देखेंगे और देखेंगे अगर ये image data है और आपको neural network लगाने को बोला जा रहा है तो आपको सीधा CNN की टेक्निक्स पढ़नी है और वही सीधा लगा देनी है. अगर टाइम सीरीज डेटा है आपके पास और उस पर न्यूरल नेटवर्क लगाना है तो आपने सिर्फ देखना है कि ओके आई एम गोइंग टू स्पेसिफिकली, आई विल नॉट स्टार्ट फ्रॉम कि व्हाट इज न्यूरल नेटवर्क, आई विल जस्ट गो इनटू RNN, find out and understand the things and apply it. So last thing that I just want to mention here, that इन सभी में कहीं ना कहीं आप लोग अगर रिसर्च में हैं तो कहीं ना कहीं आप सुनते हैं कि सॉफ्ट कंप्यूटिंग है या सॉफ्ट कंप्यूटिंग है या आपका नेचर इंस्पायर्ड कंप्यूटिंग कहाँ फिट करती है इस पूरे सिनारियो में. सो बेसिकली जब आप ट्रेन करते हैं अपने मशीन लर्निंग एल्गोरिथम को, आपकी जो ऑप्टिमाइजेशन प्रॉब्लम्स हैं, सी दीज प्रॉब्लम्स आर अगेन ऑप्टिमाइजेशन प्रॉब्लम्स. यू आर पिकिंग अप द डेटा एंड यू ट्राई टू ऑप्टिमाइज योर machine, the model that you are training, the best model you want to generate. So that training of the model, because it's a very complex, hard optimization problem. So training of your neural networks can be done by using soft computing techniques or, the nature inspired techniques. And we talk about soft computing. Soft computing is really soft on your solutions. जब आपको ऐसे solutions चाहिए जिससे आपका काम चल जाएगा, sufficiently acceptable solution है, आपको बहुत ज्यादा, you don't want to go with the optimal solution. आपको एक्यूरेसी की परवाह नहीं है और आपको थोड़ा बहुत एक्यूरेट सोल्यूशन भी चल जाएगा, ऐसे केस में आप सॉफ्ट कंप्यूटिंग टेक्निक्स को लगाते हैं. और ये आपकी आती हैं जब आप बहुत ज्यादा कॉम्प्लेक्स प्रॉब्लम्स को डील कर रहे होते हैं अपने न्यूरल नेटवर्क में. यू कैन take the help of these techniques to train your neural network, because it's a repetitive kind of it's just happens multiple number of times, और हर iteration में आपके neural network की training को और accurate करती चली जाएंगी. और इसको लगाने से there have been lot of research papers in which we can see that lot of good research work has been done while training your neural networks for by using artificial intelligence. So it's a good, I'm just opening some of the people who are into doing a PhD and who are thinking of doing PhD. These are the open areas. You can pick up any real world complex problem. You can pick up, a neural network or any specific thing, and you can just try to apply soft computing techniques to model, to train your machine on a particular model. So this can be a good research work for your PhD and for your college people. So if I talk about, this thing, so a lot of techniques you have heard about: genetic ant colony, swarm optimization, and so on and so forth. So this is the last thing that is very important for you to know, because when you start reading data science, for any the middle level organization, lower level organization, higher level organization, these are the life cycle of a data scientist or a data science that is going on in that organization. You start collecting the data. For collecting, you apply such kind of things. You use sensors, external data, you use logs, and basically this work comes under the purview of data infrastructure engineer. Then in an organization, then you collected data need to be moved to proper data storage. It is the work of data engineer. After that, cleaning, anomaly detection, feature extraction and all that stuff. Cleaning is the first thing, and anomaly detection. Explore and transform, that is called. And then after cleaning, you just go ahead with finding out some matrices, feature reduction, dividing your data into training and testing data, and then applying some ML algorithm, A and B level of testing experimentation. So this part comes to a data scientist or data analyst or a machine learning, a part. So this is overlapping kind of a thing. And then after doing it, if you move ahead with AI or deep learning, it is specifically the job of machine learning engineer or a core data scientist. So if you are very, very experienced data scientist, you can move ahead to this level and you can just work exactly in the core data science field. That is about prediction, deep learning, AI. But if you are starting with your career as a data scientist, you have to work with all these part of things. Or you may be in a small organization. In a small organization, you may be asked to handle all these levels. If you are in a big organization like Google, like Yahoo, there are different employees, different data science, different analysts, different engineer, different infra. So work is explicitly divided when you're working with a big organization, but work may overlap when you are working in a middle level or a low level organization. So it's just like overlapping fields, but with different names and different, you can call this part as a programmer also. So a lot of things are going on. Some of the real life example, like it's a very, 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 very important project. Like, for example, was given to a student in US in some university, that can we know if a woman is pregnant, even if she doesn't want us to know, by the shopping patterns. So, everything is being watched by the big organizations. Data scientists are working on your data. You are under watch every time. So once you do shopping, once you do, your preferences on the Google, on the YouTube, can you find out whether this lady is pregnant or not? And then according to that, can you do some recommendations of the products? Can you do some predictions of the things that she may be interested in buying? So that's basically the job of a data scientist. Other real life examples are genetic issues, logistic, like finding out the best routes, best time, best transport. So these all Amazon and all these these companies which are into they are into e-shopping and e-businesses. They are doing this things like finding out the best transport, best time, and their data scientists are working 24/7 onto it. So finding out the key variables for employee turnover, airline routes, national security, cyber security. There are a lot of applications of data scientists. You can go ahead with any application, pick up the data set and start working. So this is all I wanted to discuss today to give you my best for explaining you what you are going to learn in this FDP, and all the best for the coming week, and for all the knowledge gaining sessions. And for any query or discussion, you can always contact me on my email ID. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Dr. Nidhi. Hello.
Yeah.
Hello, Dr. Nidhi.
Yeah, yeah.
There was a query. I posted that query to your WhatsApp. Should I read it? Should I read it?
Yeah, yeah, on my WhatsApp. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
reading it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is a query
Yeah.
from a participant that since data is so dynamic and so is the market, which produces the data, how effective is the predictive modeling? This was the question.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
This is the first question.
Yeah.
Yeah, because see, obviously the predictions are being done. Predictions are never 100% accurate. Obviously, when you are training a model, it needs to it comes with some level of risk factor. So and because I'm saying that data scientists are working 24/7, so that dynamicity is always involved, and it just says that, okay, this is my prediction for this particular moment of time and with this particular risk factor. So that dynamicity is involved in the risk factor that is being published with the prediction of that machine learning model.